circulated. Do we have a mover and seconder to accept that? Moved by Councillor Harold, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, if you see you're in hot water as we go along, you can always declare it at that time. We have a consent agenda there. There is 11 items, actually 10 plus the regular council meeting from December the 5th. Is there anything there that anybody would like clarification on or pulled and dealt with separately? No, we're good. Okay, then a motion would be in order to accept the consent agenda. Councillor Rose and Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So that brings us down to the public meeting and delegation, and we do have a zoning bylaw amendment to deal with. So at this time, I'll call the public meeting to order at oh, there we go, 7:02 p.m. We have a clock up here, but it's not working. So this public meeting is being held in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. I will ask Clerk Hobson for the purpose of this public meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this public meeting is to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments about a proposed amendment to Bylaw 100-1998 zoning bylaw. Council may make a decision at this public meeting, but ultimately be gathering information and make a decision at a future regular council meeting. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision made by council, they are to provide their name, mailing address, and email to me, the clerk, this evening via email at clerk@westperth.com. A person or public body may appeal a decision if they have made an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission to council prior to the passing of this bylaw.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this is a public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment. The application D1413-2022 is initiated by Robert and Sally Johns. The proposed amendment affects the property described as part Lot 6, Concession 12 of the Hibbert Ward, the municipality of West Perth. Can the clerk please confirm that the notices were sent?
I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies prescribed by legislation. A sign advertising tonight's meeting was posted on the subject property on November 28th, 2022.
Okay, thank you. I'll now call upon John Weiss, planner for the County of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. So John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just hit the button and turn it on, John. There, good.
Good. Thank you, Mayor Mackenzie and Council and members of the public. So this zoning bylaw amendment was initiated by Bob and Sally Johns, located at 6616 line 19 in the Hibbert Ward. And we can go to the next slide. Okay, so the zoning bylaw amendment is it's an application for it's a condition of surplus farm dwelling severance. And this severance application was B20-22. The property is located west of Russelldale and is surrounded by agricultural uses. Subject property is also designated agricultural, and it's got a natural environment designation as well from the Perth County official plan. So the severed area in yellow, as you see on the slide, is proposed to be rezoned from agricultural to A1-5 to allow for a non-farm residential dwelling. It's also to recognize a reduced lot frontage. The area outlined in red will be to be rezoned to A3, subscript 9, to prohibit the construction of a residence and to recognize a reduced interior side yard setback for an existing grain bin and an existing silo. Move to the next one. So this is a photo that was taken on June 15th, and it's of the grain bin. It's also of the dwelling on the severed portion. The grain bin will remain with the retained land, and it is an item that needs to recognize a reduced interior side yard setback. So the site-specific reduction for the two interior side yard setbacks for the retained land is 30 meters. And it goes from 30 meters to 26 meters. And this is for the silo, as you see on the slide here. And then the grain bin in the the West Perth zoning bylaw, 7.5 meter setback is required, and they're proposing 5 meters. There's no adverse effects anticipated from the side yard reductions, and the side yard setbacks represent the intention of the consent. So the minimum lot frontage, as you see from this slide, and it's more towards line 19 there, they're proposing 6.5 meters where 30 meters is required. And again, no adverse impacts are anticipated from this reduction. One thing to note real quick is that the zoning bylaw, as you see here today, typically what happens is we bring it forth to council to receive comments. But today we're doing that, as well as we have a recommendation for approval. That is the end, and I can take any questions.
I guess the question I should ask, is there anybody online tonight that wants to speak with regards to this stuff? Okay. All right, so we're into the more formal aspect of the public meeting here. So at this time, I'll ask if the applicant or agent has anything to add at this time. No? Okay. Is there anybody else here in support of the application that wishes to say anything? What's more important, is there anybody here in opposition to the application? All right. General comments and questions from council. Any questions for John? Okay. Then I think we're good. I would like to thank those in attendance for their comments. Should council proceed with the adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act in a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal. We will now close the meeting at 7:09 p.m. And we do have a resolution here that the Council Municipality of West Perth, we received the report entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment 13 2022 for information, and that council received the public comments regarding this application, and that council approved zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 13 2022 affecting lands described as Part Lot 6 Concession 12 of the Hibbert Ward, Municipality of West Perth, 6616 line 19 Staffa. So do we have a mover and seconder for that resolution? Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Duck. Any further comments or discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. So that brings us down to item number 5 or item number, where are we here? Item number 6. And that's Planning Department and a consent application for file B4622. And I think, Jerica, you're going to run this one by us. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. I'm excited to present this one to you folks tonight because I believe this is the first time that the new council has seen a severance application. So consent to sever is the applicants basically asking to create a new parcel of land off their existing parcel. This one is B46-22. The landowners are the Vanasas and the agent is the Linka Primo Limited. It's in the southwest quadrant of the Mitchell community. It's known as 34 Claim Street or Part Park Lot 47, Plan 339. All right, so the Mitchell official plan has designated this land as residential. The zoning is currently R1-4 to permit the existing dwelling along with the accessory structures and future development. That's all the land that's currently cropped. The purpose is to sever off the existing house in order to prepare for a future residential subdivision. So we're going to, the existing parcel, which is going to be the retained, is 1.11 acres, and that will leave us with 8.22 acres that will have frontage off of Napier, Clayton, Frank, and Nelson Street. And there will be, in the future, not with this application, a new public roadway probably anticipated. The surrounding land uses are residential in nature. There is a public works yard on the, I guess to the west, you would say. And this is basically a pretty straightforward application tonight because we know that the residential subdivision will be coming and the lands are currently zoned future development. So normally when we have a consent application and we're creating a new parcel, there's a whole bunch of studies, archaeological assessment, we think of servicing. But in this case, there's really no danger of us creating this lot because the zoning is such that it'll protect the lands and the developers will have to apply for a planning application in order to move forward. So this is basically what to the left is what we're anticipating. And to the right, again, this is not part of the proposal tonight, but the developers are basically showing us that once the existing landowners have, at a point in time, they're hoping at the kind of the final phases of the subdivision that that large lot can then be subdivided into further lots. So planning is recommending approval of this application to the Land Division Committee. We have received no comments from members of the public regarding it, and I'm more than happy to take any comments or feedbacks West Perth Council might have in regards to the recommended conditions for West Perth. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jerica. Any questions from members of council with regards to what we're doing? I think everybody knows where the property is, so on the southwest edge of town. No questions? Okay, if there's no questions, I do have a resolution here, and it's maybe a little lengthy, but I'll read the whole resolution. The Council Municipality of West Perth received a report entitled Consent Application File B4622 Vanash, affecting lands described as part of Park Lot 47, Plan 339, known as 34 Clayton Street, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth. And that council recommends that the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve consent application file B4622 filed by Zelenka Primo Limited on behalf of Joannis and Nancy Vaness, affecting lands described as part lot 47 plan 339 known as 34 Clayton Street, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth, subject to the following conditions. That the confirmation be received from the Municipality of West Perth that all taxes have been paid in full. That confirmation be received from the Municipality of West Perth that all financial requirements have been met, if any. That confirmation be received from the Municipality of West Perth that the severed and retained lots have each been assigned separate municipal addresses and signs, and that the Municipality of West Perth has provided a clearing letter stating that all municipal requirements have been addressed. Do we have a mover and seconder for that resolution? Moved by Councillor O'Donnell and seconded by Deputy Mayor Trankowski. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. And I apologize if I massacred your name because I always call you John. Yeah. All right, moving on to the next one then. Consent file B1622 is one for Willows. And we have all the planners here tonight. Okay, Susanna, I'll let you have the floor and take it away.
Thank you very much, Mayor McKenzie. Good evening, council. This is a consent application as well. So the application is brought to West Perth for your comments prior to going to the Land Division Committee at the county. So this is an application, a farm outside of Carlingford or abutting Carlingford. The property is owned by Morris and Michelle Willows, and Lisa Dow is the applicant. So the red star on the screen now shows the location of the property. This is an air photo showing the property. So there was the piece that's outlined in red, so the farm parcel is in an agricultural designation, and that's about 97.5 acres. And then the area outlined in blue was created by consent file B 5930, and that is just shy of a half an acre. Now the area outlined in yellow is a proposed consent with this application B 16/2022. And that is 0.16 of an acre or 661 square meters. And that piece that's outlined in yellow is proposed to be added to the piece that's outlined in blue. So that will be a slightly larger residential lot, which will be 0.24 hectares or 0.59 acres. So the intention of this application is the lot addition, the yellow severance. This is the site sketch provided by the applicant. So part 1 is the piece that was created by the earlier consent file in 2020. And part 2 is the piece that is being considered by the file tonight, or that's being brought to West Perth Council for comments. And I have a few photos of the property. Are you advancing it or am I? Okay, so this is the driveway. You can see on that photo, there's a shed at the back. The shed is on the farm parcel, the Willows farm. And this driveway is what is in part 2 now. So this is the piece that is proposed to be severed in order to enlarge part 1. And then the next slide. This is the building lot where the Dows are proposing to build a house. And this is looking west on the Carlingford Road. I'm looking east on the Carlingford Road. And that's the Willows farmland. So this, the conditions, recommending conditions for West Perth are included in the report. And this file is the first time there was an amendment to the Planning Act that allows for a consent to be canceled. So that is what's proposed to happen to the first consent in order to allow it to merge with the property that's proposed to be created by B16/2022. So there's also a recommendation that West Perth Council recommend to the Land Division Committee that the first application created by consent be canceled. The conditions are listed there, and there are a number of conditions in the Perth County conditions that relate to the land being merged onto it. So those are the comments, Mr. Mayor, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thanks, Susanna. Any questions for Susanna at this time? I don't remember us ever canceling one.
This is the very first one
Very
in the
first
county.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a recent amendment. Thanks for that comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Section 5245 of the Planning Act is a new section of the Planning Act that allows a lot that was created by its severance to be canceled for the purpose of it merging on to another parcel that's been created by council. So it has the effect of making it sticky.
Good. All right, if there's, go ahead, Councillor Harold.
So there is still good access to the retained parcel, correct?
That's one of the conditions of consent. Yes. Thanks for the comment. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a shed on the retained land. That's the only building on the retained parcel. And one of the conditions of consent that's proposed for West Perth is that an access be provided onto the farmland.
Okay, any other questions? All right. The recommendation is here. There are 8 conditions that belong to that. And with your permission, I won't read all 8 conditions. You've had that for the weekend. And also we have Counselor Vink on Zoom. So he will make some noise if he wants to say something that we can hear him. So the recommendation is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth receive the report entitled Consent File B1622 and request for certificate of cancellation for Part Lot 5 Concession 6 Fullerton, being Part 1 Plan 44R 5885 West Perth, submitted by Lisa Dow on behalf of Morris and Michelle Willows, affecting lands described as part of Lot 5 Concession 6 Fullerton Ward 5178 Municipality of West Perth. The council recommends to the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its designate that a certificate of cancellation be issued for Part Lot 5 Concession 6 Fullerton, being Part 1 Plan 44R 5885 West Perth, and that council recommends that the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its designate approve the consent application file B1622 submitted by Lisa Dow on behalf of Morris and Michelle Willows, affecting lands described as Part Lot 5 Concession 6 of the Fullerton Ward Municipality of West Perth, subject to the following 8 conditions, and they're listed there for you. Moved by Councillor Harold. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Phelps. Any further discussion or questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you, Suzanne. Now, we have another consent application, file B43, which is the McDougall severance. And Jerica, I'll let you do that one. We're just having revolving chairs with the planners here tonight.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. So this is consent B 43-22. Property owners are the McDougalls, and the agent is J. Andrew Phillips of Monteith Britsma Phillips Professional Corporation. And this is a surplus farm dwelling severance. And actually, it's a reverse surplus farm dwelling severance, which I'll go into in just a moment. But the property is known as 6720 Line 34. It's midway between the communities of Dublin and Mitchell, just off Highway 8. So the official plan designation is agriculture, and the zoning of the subject lands is agricultural. In Perth County, we take great strides to protect our agricultural properties, and there's very few severances that are actually permitted in the agricultural zone or the agriculture designation. One of the few that the provincial policy statements allows us is surplus farm dwelling severances. So we have an existing dwelling that has been around since the 1880s. It's going to be continued to be lived in by the McDougalls, but the land surrounding the farm or the farmhouse is going to be surplus to the needs of a consolidated farming operation. So in this case, although the McDougalls are farmers, they're going to be retiring from their, right now they have swine on the farm, and they have made a purchased agreement to purchase with the Luigi's, and this will be surplus to their needs. They reside on another farm. So the McDougalls have taken great strides to ensure that the lot that they are severing off is minimal in nature. That's one of the requirements of the PPS. So the only structures that will be remaining is the 2-story house. And then this drive shed we have determined is accessory to the residential nature of the lot. So it will be permitted to stay. The image to the right there, the property line is going to go right through that tree line. So it's a little tight to the shed, but since we don't have any adjacent structures or nearby, like the surrounding area is cropland, we're not really concerned about that since it's going to be a legal non-conforming use. And then the existing swine barn and the 2 manure pits on the property. Unfortunately, since the retained lot has to meet the MDS guidelines, so the minimum distance separation formula, it can't remain on the retained lands. So we can't justify as a residential use. and they have to be removed in order for the new residential use to be acceptable to basically permit the severance. So one of the conditions is that the barns are going to be removed. We have a variety of other conditions that for West Perth to consider. I have not received any comments from members of the public and no concerns from any public agencies. There was pre-discussion with the MTO before this application was submitted. Their only recommendation is that they want to ensure that both lots have adequate access, which the applicants will apply for once the severance is approved. So happy to answer any questions and thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jerica. Any questions? Counselor Foster?
They have to take down all the remaining buildings that'll be on what Luigi's are purchasing. So there'll be no pits or the barn, everything's gone.
Yes, they will.
Okay.
And in this particular circumstance, they're at the end of their design life regardless. So it wasn't a hard decision for the McDougals.
I know Luigi's. I'm friends with Ben.
Yeah.
The son.
Any other questions? Just one from my perspective, Jerica, on your sketch where you show the severance. I just wondered why your line didn't come straight down as opposed to an angle. Do you know what I'm talking about on the? I'm sure there's a reason for that.
I think it has to do with the, there we go.
Yeah, it shows the angle there. Like it's
Yep.
it's coming around.
I believe that's so they can get to the back of the shed.
Okay, yeah.
Not
that makes
without-
sense.
Without crossing
Yes,
over.
because the line the other way is pretty close to the shed, so if you want, and the doors, I assume, are on the back side. So. you
Yeah,
would
and
be-
the line to the right is a different property. So like the residential lot will abut right of, like
Right.
sometimes we have severances where it's right in the middle, but
No, that makes sense. It just kind of stood out that it was on an angle, really things kind of straight, you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's good. That's good. Any other questions with regards to this? Okay, I have a recommendation here then that the Council Municipality of West Perth received the report entitled Consent Application File B4222 McDougall affecting lands described as Part Lot 29 Concession 1, known as 6720 Line 34 of the Logan Ward Municipality of West Perth, and that council recommends that the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve consent application file B4322 filed by J. Andrew Phillips on behalf of Grant and Lori McDougall affecting lands described as Part Lot 29 Concession 1, known as 6720 Line 34 of the Logan Ward Municipality of West Perth, subject to the following 8 conditions. And with your permission, I won't read all of the 8. You've had them for the weekend. So do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Foster, Councillor Rose. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thanks, Jerica. And we have one more zoning bylaw amendment, number 18. For the, you got 3 more? Well, there's one left on the page. And you're doing this one, are you, Jerica? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay up here for a few more
Yeah.
minutes. So this is zoning bylaw amendment 18-2022. It went for public meeting on December 5th, so council will be familiar with this file. So the applicants are the parents. We have the same agent as the previous application with J. Andrew Phillips. And this application, oh, my clicker's not working. This application is for an addition to the Fullerton Cemetery. So the rezoning is to facilitate the consent. So we're rezoning the yellow portion to institutional and then the retained lot to basically recognize a reduction in the agricultural land from 54 hectares to, I have too many applications tonight, 37.9 acres. So I went through that pretty quickly, but if council has any questions or would like me to go back over some of the previous details, please let me know. We didn't receive any public feedback at that meeting from what I remember.
Okay, any questions for Jerica on that? Okay, we might as well deal with the recommendation then. That the municipality of West Perth received the report entitled zoning bylaw amendment 18, 2022, affecting lands described as part of lot 22 concession 8, part 1 plan 44R 2546 and part 1 plan 44R 2652 of Fullerton Ward municipality of West Perth, and that the council municipality of West Perth approved the application for zoning bylaw amendment 12, 2022, submitted by J. Andrew Phillips, Monteith, Ritzma, and Phillips Professional Corporation on behalf of Adam, Heather, and Robert Parent for lands described as part lot 22, concession 8, part 1, plan 44R 2546, and part 1, plan 44R 2652, Fullerton Ward municipality of West Perth. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Phelps. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. You see, I got a few more on this page. Okay, the next recommendation then is bylaw amendment number 12. So Jerica, you can take it away again.
Thank you. So this is 12-22. The applicants are Henry and Lori Minen, and the agent was Carolyn Baker of Baker Planning Group. So this is for 22 Blanchard Street in the Mitchell Ward. The public meeting happened on November 21st. And the proposed change is to facilitate a severance of a new lot for a proposed fourplex. So the retained portion will remain in the residential low density zone 1 with the existing house on it, and the severed lot will be rezoned to residential high density zone 4. Just as a refresher, there are also site-specific amendments to allow parking in the front yard and also for patios to project into a side yard at from 1.4 meters to 2.6 meters. And then we're also recognizing some of the existing developments not potentially meeting the zoning bylaw because of the severance. And that's mainly the increase in accessory lot coverage for an existing shed. So once again, happy to take any questions. We did receive one comment at the public meeting from an adjacent landowner who asked council regarding stormwater management. But from what we understand, his concerns were resolved or at least answered.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Jerica on this application? None? Okay, the recommendation here is that the council municipality of West Perth received the report entitled zoning bylaw amendment 12/20/2022 affecting lands described as part lot 46 plan 339 22 Blanchard Street, Mitchell Ward, municipality of West Perth, and that the council municipality of West Perth approve the application for zoning bylaw amendment 12/2022 submitted by Carolyn Baker of Baker Planning Consultants on behalf of Henry and Lori Minen for lands described as Park Lot 46, Plan 339, 22 Blanchard Street, Mitchell Ward, municipality of West Perth. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster. All those, I'm going to ask, is there any further questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. And the last one, we're kind of hitting all the wards in West Perth tonight too. Okay, the next one then is zoning bylaw amendment number 14. So Jerica, you can take it away.
All right, so 14-2022, the applicants are Hannon Holdings Inc. And once again, J. Andrew Phillips is the agent. They're going to be pretty busy tomorrow. So this is a rezoning for a surplus farm dwelling severance. So basically what we have is consent B 10-22 was passed earlier this year, and we are rezoning the severed portion to only be used for residential uses. And then we're rezoning the retained farmland to only be used for agricultural purposes. That's basically the crux of this one. We didn't receive any public feedback on this one either. Happy to answer any more questions or go back into detail on what the rezoning was for. And thank you.
Okay, Jerry, thanks. Any questions with regards to the zoning bylaw amendment for Hannon's? Okay, don't see anybody's hands going up. So the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth received the report entitled zoning bylaw amendment 14, 2022, affecting lands described as lot 29, concession 3, 6736, line 36, Logan Ward, municipality of West Perth, and that the council of municipality of West Perth approve the application for zoning bylaw amendment 12, 2022, submitted by J. Andrew Phillips, Monteith Ritzma Phillips Professional Corporation, on behalf of Hannon Holdings, Inc. for lands described as Lot 29, Concession 3, 6736, line 36, Logan Ward, municipality of West Perth. Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Chessel and Councillor Phelps. Any questions before we take the vote? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you, Jerrigan. All right, moving on then. We don't have anything for Bob, I don't think at this time, do we? No, any questions for Bob? Okay, fire chief report then.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My first report tonight is my activity report for the months of September and October. The big event between the 2 months is Fire Prevention Week. We were able to have a very successful open house. Got to get back into all the schools, something that we haven't been able to do for the last couple of years. So it was very successful. As far as our emergency response, by the time October rolled around, we were right back in pre-COVID response numbers. Our hours are still quite a bit higher this year than they've been in the past, and that was due to the surge back in March. But otherwise, we're pretty much right on target for where we typically are. And I'll gladly answer any questions.
Any question for Chief Hunter? None? Okay. I do have a recommendation here that that we accept the September, October 2022 West Perth Fire Department activity report prepared by Fire Chief for information. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Foster and Councillor Chessel. Pick them here. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Yep, carry on.
This project in section 5, but this year we put it back to the forefront, and all the fire departments in the county, City of Stratford and the town of St. Mary's in this. The intent of the RFP is to retain as this material contractor that we would be called in. Sorry. You want me to start again? Okay, sorry about that. Sorry. I've had that all memorized. So the intent was to have a hazardous materials contractor available for us to call in the event that we respond to a call where the carrier doesn't have somebody on retainer, which doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. The other part of our RFP was to have a contractor that would provide a supply of materials for us to use. They wouldn't, we wouldn't get billed until we actually use some of the supplies. The same thing with the emergency response, no charge. There's no retainer fees. It's simply having this company available. Once they are used, and obviously there would be fees, and we would bill those back to whoever caused the accident. And I'll gladly answer any questions about that.
Okay, any questions for Chief Hunter? Andrew, go ahead.
Why would a company want to go to the expense of stockpiling these materials without any idea of when they would make money?
I don't know. I think it's the real intent of the RFP was to have a company that we would call in the event that we needed them. Them having a supply of supplies here in Perth County, based on the inventory that they typically carry, probably isn't going to affect them at all. It's kind of like a throw-in, so to say. On the most important part is for them would be becoming our preferred contractor to respond to the calls.
And if I can just add, with the overall volume, they'll be able to manage their stock and they'll just rotate their stock and keep it fresh. And with somebody that does this, there's always going to be something needed somewhere. And so it shows where, you know, size matters in a case like this.
They're also their prices for us to purchase any of the supplies from them, quite a bit cheaper than us buying it individually from basically the same supplier. Like Jeff says, they buy in bulk, and then they're just going to have a small amount of items sitting in Perth County available for us to use.
So how often would we use this service, Bill?
Depends. Like for the supplies or for the cleanup? The cleanup, typically when we respond to motor vehicle collision, truck on its side, it's leaking diesel fuel into the ditch. The contractor will have a company on call, basically. That company would come in, do the cleanup, and they would bill it back to the carrier. But sometimes we do respond, and the trucking firm or whoever's in the ditch doesn't have anyone. And then basically the decision on who we call comes down to us phoning the Spills Action Center from the Ministry of Environment and finding out who's available locally, and then making a phone call and having them come in. This will eliminate all of that. Simply, if that person doesn't have somebody on contract, we would just make a call to this company.
Okay, so would we use it in a period of a year? We would use it once, twice?
In the last, probably in the last 2 years in West Perth, maybe once.
Okay.
Perth East, we've had 2 calls so far this year where they didn't have anybody. So it just comes down to the frequency of the incident and whether that person has actually got the proper coverage.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Councillor Fournier?
Just a really quick question regarding hazardous materials. If, for example, a Tesla catches on fire in downtown Mitchell, do you have anything to put it out, stop the smoke, anything of that sort? Or do we need somebody like this for exactly that kind of circumstance?
Probably both. So in my 2023 capital budget request, there is a request to purchase it's called in simple terms a fire blanket. And it's used for if there's an electrical vehicle on fire, we would cover it with the blanket, tuck it all in, and let it extinguish the fire. That's what they're designed for. any water that we use on the electric vehicle fire is basically contaminated materials. So we would probably contact this company to come in and assist with the cleanup. That's why the blanket is such a benefit, because it really cuts down on the amount of water that we would use at a vehicle fire. One study I read said that to put out a electric vehicle fire, you could use upwards of 240,000 gallons of water to extinguish a battery that's running away. And those 240 or 50,000 gallons of water are contaminated from the fire and from the battery running away. And that has to be dealt with. So this will go in hand with that blanket for sure.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, we have a recommendation here that the Council of Municipality of West Perth directs staff to enter into an agreement with CFL Environmental Inc. to provide emergency and hazardous materials response cleanup services, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councilor Phelps. Jane, what did I say? It's a G, did I say? Did I? Are you sure? It's a G. I know it says G here. Sorry. GFL. Okay. Moved by Councilor Phelps, seconded by Councilor Chessel. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. I'll have to watch the tape when I get home. See.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, brings us to our next item, and Rosemary, our head librarian, is here to give us an update on the library. Don't forget to hit the button.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The library board met on November 22nd, and I believe you have the meeting minutes in front of you. Just a few very brief highlights. We said goodbye to one of our board members at that meeting. He is stepping down after 16 years of service, which means we have a community member opening for the library board. So any resident who is interested in joining the board is invited to apply through the library's, through the municipality's webpage. Board members have been moving through the strategic planning process. So at their November meeting, they finalized wording for their mission, vision, values, and their strategic priorities. So they'll just have another look at that wording and any definitions for the values that have been put together at their January meeting. And that at that point will be available for the public and for council to see. The library board did request that the CEO prepare a report for its January meeting outlining parameters for the library to offer a community pantry. So this pantry would have non-perishable food items and personal care items available for free to the public. We have very limited food bank resources in West Perth, so this would be able to supplement that need. I'm in the process of contacting the local food bank and other organizations in the community to see where we might be able to help. And finally, the Optimist Club of Mitchell donated $605 to the library for March break programming. So that'll be fun. We have some wonderful ideas on how that can be spent to bring literacy and fun to the children and young families during the school break. I believe in front of you, you also have the CEO highlights for September, October, and November, as well as the monthly statistics report as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary.
Mhm.
Any questions for Rosemary on the library report? Deputy Mayor Trinkowski.
Through you, Your Worship, just one comment, actually, Rosemary. Wishing thanks to the Optimist Club for their generous donation to the library, and thanks to the library staff and the board for their continued good work.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are very, very grateful and very fortunate for the Optimist Club of Mitchell, and of course, to all of our community members who are always very supportive of the library.
Okay, any other questions?
Is the Huron County Food Bank Distribution Center available to use in Perth County as well, or is that strictly a Huron County sort of phenomenon?
Resources are limited and they do tend to stay within Huron County. There are limited resources all around, and that's fine. The pandemic did not help with that. So at the moment, we're in contact with the Department of Social Services, which are based in Stratford, but serve all of Perth County. So we're contacting them at the moment to see what information they might have to offer for the community pantry, also any grant opportunities that we might be able to access for that. The Mitchell Food Bank is very limited in its hours, but we're contacting them as well to see how we might be able to help, whether that limitation in hours is due to staffing or supply. We can figure that out with them to see again how we best will be able to help.
Is there any way to work together with the Mitchell Business Improvement Association? Rather than distributing items directly, you could be distributing those BIA dollars that we have here in town and put the choice back into people's hands. It's a touch more dignified almost. It does restrict where they can spend it, but it is a bit more dignified perhaps, and it takes up an awful lot less space in the library.
It would. We can certainly look into that.
Okay, any other questions for Rosemary? I think at this time, we should acknowledge Bert Borschenbosch's junior's commitment for 16 years you mentioned. So certainly I think the municipality appreciates his involvement in the library over those years. Perhaps maybe we can send a letter to that effect as well. If there's no further questions, then recommendation that the Council Municipality of West Perth accept the West Perth Public Library Board report as information. Which side was that on the last? I'll go on this side. Councillor Harold and Councillor O'Donnell. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. So thanks, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Have a Merry Christmas. Brings us down for operations manager, and we don't have Mike with us tonight, but we do have Rich here, and he's going to give us drinking water quality management 101. Is that what it is, Rich?
Your worship, esteemed members of council, I'm Richard Wright. I'm the environmental service coordinator. I manage the day-to-day operations, water, or drinking water, wastewater, and landfill operations. I'm here before you tonight because I'm seeking an endorsement for the municipality's drinking water quality management plan. This happens every 3 years. It also happens whenever we get a new council. We are an accredited operating authority, which means that we have passed an audit by a third party. In this case, our auditors are the National Sanitation Foundation, and they provide audits every year, 2 surveillance audits, back to back, and then a renewal audit. This is in January, we'll be looking at our renewal audit, hence the need for a new endorsement of the quality management policy. This is pretty dry material. I'll try not to put you to sleep. Ontario Regulation 18807 was passed under the Safe Drinking Water Act. and that is the licensing of drinking water systems for all municipalities in Ontario. This quality management standard is part of that act. So how we got here, legacy of Walkerton. Well, I can do this? Really? Oh, where do I point it? Oh, awesome. In May 2000, Walkerton's drinking water system became contaminated with deadly bacteria, primarily E. coli. 7 people died and more than 2,300 people became ill. The community was devastated. An inquiry was conducted by Chief Justice, the Honorable Dennis R. O'Connor, and his findings changed how water is treated, tested, and distributed. One of the justice's findings or one of his statements was, well, it's not possible to remove all risk from water systems. Our goal is to ensure that Ontario's water systems deliver water with a risk so negligible that a reasonable and well-informed person would feel safe letting their granddaughter drink the water. I think that message speaks for itself. Oh, I get to do this again. Oops. Yeah. What is drinking water quality management system? It's a framework for the development of quality management systems. It includes elements of the ISO 9000 standard. ISO is the International Standards Organization. It encompasses HACCP, which is hazard analysis and critical control point controls. And it implements a multi-barrier approach for drinking water safety. The 5 elements of the multi-barrier approach are source water protection, robust water treatment, secure water supply networks, those are the distribution systems, monitoring programs, and prepared responses for adverse conditions. The DWQMS approach is a proactive and preventative maintenance, establishments of documentation and management procedures, and meeting the management procedures, continual improvement of the quality management system. Essentially, it comes down to say what you do what you say, document the results, and aim to do better. Quality management system, system to establish policies and objectives and achieve those objectives, direct and control an organization with regard to quality. It's a roadmap to ensure the best outcome, the ability to repeat successes and clearly identify issues. The system explained its plan, establish an objective, policy, and procedures necessary to deliver the desired results, implement those procedures, check, monitor and measure procedures and report results, improve, take actions to continually improve performance. The operational plan is the written documentation of our QMS policy as developed to meet the requirements of the DWQMS standard issued by the province. The operational plan is presented to council for endorsement prior to submission of to the Ministry of the Environment and the accreditation body. As I said, this is for every new council and every time we have to present to the third-party accreditation body. I'm going to skip the next 3 of these slides because we end up having to go into every one of them. Element 1. There are 21 elements in the drinking water quality management system. I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of each one. The element 1 is the West Perth Quality Management System. The operational plan defines and documents the quality management system for the Mitchell drinking water system owned by West Perth and operated by West Perth Environmental Services. Element 2, the West Perth DW QMS policy. The operational plan must have a QMS policy that provides the foundation for the quality management system and is appropriate for the size and type of the subject system, includes a commitment to maintenance and continual improvement, includes a commitment to the consumer to provide safe drinking, includes a commitment to comply with applicable legislation and regulations, and is created in a way that provides ready communication for all operating authority personnel, the owner, and the public. Commitment endorsement, that's why we're here tonight, of the town of drinking water, the town of Mitchell drinking water systems, QMS and operational plan. Municipality of West Perth drinking water quality management system. Operational plan is endorsed and supported by the mayor, councillors, and all senior staff. The quality management system representative, QMS representative, will ensure that current versions of the documentation related to the quality management system are in use, reporting on QMS performance, identify opportunities, and ensure personnel are aware of their applicable legislative and regulatory requirements that pertain to their operational duties. All personnel have a role and responsibilities for the DWQMS. I'm the quality management system representative for the municipality. Element 5, document records control. This element outlines the procedures for identification, storage, protection, retrieval, retention time, and disposition of documents and records. Water department records a lot of data. We have to, it's part of our regulatory requirements. And we have to ensure that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that data can be retrieved, should there ever be a need. Element 6, description of the drinking water system. The Mitchell drinking water system is comprised of 4 raw water wells, 2 distribution centers, a 41-meter tall standpipe, 1,000 cubic meter elevated tower, and approximately 45 kilometers of piping, 430 valves, and 285 fire hydrants. Element 7 and 8, risk assessment and outcomes. Environmental services staff have identified threats, hazardous events that could have a negative impact on the system's ability to deliver safe drinking water. Specific control measures and procedures are in place to minimize that potential. The organizational structure, roles, and responsibilities and authorities. We're not going to do the authorities. The owner of the system is the municipality of West Perth. The operating authority is top management, CAO, the chair of the Environmental Services Committee, the operations manager, myself, my operations staff, and the Environmental Services Technical Administrative Assistant. Element 10, competencies. The operational plan describes the competencies required for staff who perform duties that directly affect drinking water quality. Also, how we develop and maintain competencies and ensures staff understands the impact of their duties have on safe drinking water. Your drinking water operators are licensed by the province. We have annual training requirements that are tied to the level of the licensing. Licensing is issued as the result of passing a board exam. And those are legislated in one of the Ontario Regulation 128, the certification of drinking water operators. Personnel coverage. This element is designed to ensure sufficient and competent personnel, as explained in element 10, are available for duties that directly affect drinking water quality. So this is stuff like on-call schedules and having additional licensed staff for emergency coverage. Communication. This element requires us to communicate our QMS policy and other relevant QMS procedures to council, staff, external partners, and the public. Examples of that communication are adverse water quality incidents, construction notices, emergency repair notices, and annual notices in regards to potential contaminants. Element 13 describes the procedure for procurement and ensuring quality of essential supplies. It also identifies the suppliers, services deemed essential for the safe delivery of drinking water. This includes chemical suppliers, distribution parts and fittings for both primary and secondary suppliers, and things like no lead, and are the chemicals certified that we use in the drinking water. Element 14, the review provision of infrastructure. Element 14 describes the procedure of the municipality of West Perth to review the adequacy of the infrastructure necessary to operate and maintain safe drinking water and the drinking water system. So this is a review of major components of drinking water systems, including everything from pipes in the ground to elevated storage tanks and little tiny dosing pumps. Element 15 is the infrastructure maintenance, rehabilitation, and renewal. Environmental services coordinator and the operations manager, with input from all related staff, are responsible for the development of maintenance, rehabilitation, and renewal programs. Council authorizes the implementation of these plans through the annual budget process. Maintenance plans are developed in accordance with manufacturer's instructions, regulatory requirements, industry standards, and staff input. Rehabilitation and renewal activities are communicated to the public through council action reports in local media and the municipal website. Sampling, testing, and monitoring. Element 16. The focus of element 16 is establishing and implementing a procedure that describes how the municipality of West Perth both samples, tests, and monitors for process control and finished drinking water quality. The use of accredited laboratories, sample schedules, weekly, quarterly, annual, 36-month, 60-month sampling events. So there's a vast number of samples that are required to be taken. Element 17, measurement and recording equipment, calibration and maintenance. Element 17 describes the procedure for the calibration, maintenance of recording equipment. So this includes online chlorine analyzers, flow meters, level transducers, and their schedules are weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. Some of these are also done, are reviewed by third parties to ensure that the results are valid. Element 18, emergency management. This ensures the municipality of West Perth is prepared for an emergency situation that could impact our ability to maintain the supply of safe drinking water. This element also includes the drinking water contingency plan. So risk assessments and contingency plans are reviewed annually and updated as required. Potential staff shortages from pandemics, terrorist and climate change threats are also mentioned. Element 19 is internal audits. We're almost there, kids. A procedure and plan for conducting internal audits is required. This is a self-auditing process that ensures that we measure the effectiveness of our management plan and our conformity with the DWQMS requirements. So we use internal staff, or we use internal audits using our own staff. And then we augment every other year with using a third party to come in and do our internal audit, just to make sure that we are being conscientious of what we're seeing in the system. Element 20 is the management review. This element requires the annual management review procedure that covers areas such as incidents of adverse drinking water tests, matters of compliance and non-compliance, operational performance, results of emergency response training. It demonstrates commitment of upper management and the operating authority to conduct a thorough review of the system and identifies potential future needs. Continual improvement. In conjunction with the internal audit process, the municipality of West Perth uses action plans to continually improve its quality management system. Through these processes, areas of concern as well as opportunities for improvement are identified. It ensures that the best practices are reviewed and effectively utilized, and we embrace beneficial change. Our commitment. The municipality of West Perth is committed to providing our residents with safe drinking water. The drinking water quality management system is an ongoing process, and with everyone's involvement, we can strive to enhance our quality systems. Our residents are our priority. The end user should have no doubt when they turn on their water, they're getting good water. I alluded to this at the beginning of the presentation. This is the accreditation process. It's a third party accreditation. It's an internationally recognized organization. NSF assigns our operating authority accreditation. It lasts for 3 years, and then they have to go through the entire process again. Other components of the DWQMS are the financial plan. The drinking water system is a user fee system. Future fee increases are pre-planned according to calculated replacement schedules. A new financial plan is issued every 5 years. And it's based on full cost recovery and life cycle based plan. Drinking water licensing program. Again, another thing that has to be renewed on an ongoing basis. There's the drinking water system license. It provides the authority to operate the system, the drinking water system. And then you have the drinking water works permit. It replaces the certificate of approval. It includes a system design description and provides authority to alter the system through application for amendments to the drinking water works permit. And all the pieces, when put together, you have an acceptable QMS operational plan. You have the operating authority accreditation. You have the approved financial plan, and they issue the license. Going forward, we hope to promote the QMS organizationally wide and strive for continued improvement. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Rich. There is a test after Rich is done, so.
Actually, sometime in the near future, you'll be receiving standard of care training. It's important, and it's a component of this. And you think I'm boring.
Okay, any questions for Rich at all? Deputy Mayor Trinkowski.
Through you, your worship, Richard, could you give some of the counselors that are maybe not familiar with the accreditation process and so forth, could you give some insight as to our level of compliance with third-party accreditation and with review by the Ministry of Environment?
Sure. We received a score of 98.5 on our last drinking water inspection. The previous 3 or 4 were 100%. There's a cycle that happens. Every 5 years, the inspectors are changed. And depending on when a new inspector comes in, you have to determine what their priorities are. I don't believe that there's a set standard for their inspections. So next year, I would bet that we'll have another 100% inspection. The audit process for the NSF is one of those things that keeps 3 of us awake at night. The person who comes and does our audits travels internationally. This individual is in China. This individual is in numerous countries, and they are extremely thorough. And they put us through our paces. The last audit we had from this auditor was the first time that they never had to issue an opportunity for improvement, which says something, because as a minimum, most offer something as an opportunity for an improvement as an audit finding. We really impressed this individual with our commitment and with our documentation and with the way we operate the system. Says a lot for my staff. I'm extremely lucky to have the people that I have. And so are the residents of Mitchell. These are some extremely dedicated, hardworking people, and they have a commitment that seems to be a little more than just, it's not just a job to them. It's something far more significant. Anything else you'd like me to?
Nope, that's great, Richard. Thank you. And we appreciate the dedication of the staff involved with the drinking water system.
Thank you.
Anybody else with questions? Just one thing, and Rich kind of hinted at it when he was going through, and I'm not sure if we've mentioned it before, but the drinking water system is solely supported by the Mitchell residents. It's not a general expense to the whole municipality of West Perth. It's basically a user pay system for the ward of Mitchell. So, which is why when we get into committees later on, we try to pick Mitchell people to go onto that committee if we could. So if there's no further questions, then thanks, Rich. And we do have a recommendation here that we'll vote on, that the Council of Municipality of West Perth received the presentation regarding the drinking water quality management standard, the DWQMS 2.0, and that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth endorse the drinking water quality management system operational plan, confirming council's commitment as set out in the Municipality of West Perth drinking water quality management system operational plan. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose and Deputy Mayor Trinkowski. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thanks, Rich. All right, moving on then. I don't think we have anything for recreation and facilities, but we do have a little bit from our treasurer. So Wendy, the floor is yours. I guess the first item then is the consolidated statements as of October 31st. So go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So this, the consolidated report goes until October, which is about 83% through the year. And so far, everything is looking good for till October. So in the report, it talks about We're looking at roughly showing a $5 million surplus. But in this report, I kind of broke out what that meant. Because this time of year, we start changing some of our numbers for asset management. So 4.6 million of that 5.2 million is your assets that have been recorded this year. So it takes up a big chunk of that. There's 175,000 of deferred revenue. So the two probably more important numbers would be the water and wastewater surplus is 153,000 and the general operations is 267. Also in the report, I kind of broke out some fuel. Fuel is showing over this year. We're over budget in October, so we still have 2 more months. So we're going to just kind of watch that. But I thought I'd highlight it to you. Heat and hydro costs, currently we're down. So we're only at 63% instead of, we're in October, so it's 83%. So we're showing low for heat and hydro. And then in the report, we were able to get the job costing distributed. So all year the roads has been showing over and the distribution's now been done. So they're more in line of where they should be. If there's any questions on those, I'll take them.
Any questions for Wendy on that? I'm looking at Audrey over here. She probably wishes maybe you had a little bit more heat on. If there's no questions, yeah, you kind of highlighted a bit through there. So I think that's good, Wendy. The recommendation that we have here is that Municipality of West Perth accept the West Perth consolidated statements as of October 31st. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor O'Donnell and seconded by Councillor Phelps. Any further questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right. Infrastructure fund then. This is next, Wendy.
So some good news on this one. This is our, we call it OSIF or Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. This fund is typically used on capital. There are some other requirements. We can use it for staff, but only for asset management related staff. So typically we pull out 80,000 and we put it towards our asset management and technical analyst position. And there was some change in how the formula worked for this grant. So starting in 2023, moving forward, it's going to be on replacement value for our assets. Whereas before it was kind of they looked at our financial information return values to come up with the formula. There's been some changes on how that's being calculated. So last year it was announced that there would be some changes in how it was calculated. So this year we ended up with an additional 165,000. So we got the full 15% increase. And so that's good news for us. We're getting 1.2 million in funding for 2023. If there's any questions, I'll take them.
Okay, any questions for Wendy on that? It's kind of nice to get some good news once in a while. Okay, if there's no questions, motion here is that Municipality of West Perth accept the 2023 Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, the OCIF, as information. Moved by Councillor Duck, seconded by Councillor Fournier. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Next item then is the OMPF.
So another good news here on the OMPF funding, which is known as the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. This one is there's no restrictions on it. And it's used to kind of, it's the main grant used by the province to assist municipalities. So in 2013, they started by cutting back Perth County. And there's a chart in the report that kind of shows the funding that we used to get. We used to get over 3.8 million. And they've reduced our allocation down to just short of $1 million. And so it's shown in the report, and then also the budget levy requirements is beside that same year span. And so basically the levies had to pick up the shortfall in that funding. And so the graph kind of shows the levy going up and the grant going down. But good news, we got an additional $56,000 this year, which is a 6% increase from last year. So this is the first time in a decade that we've got more funding than previous years. It's always good to get more grants. Any questions?
I think the thing to look at, and you did mention 2013, but if we go to 2012, which is 10 years ago, we were at 3.9 million that we received, and now we're down to 900,000, 982,000. So that's how much we've dropped in 10 years in what we, in the funding that we used to receive. And, you know, it has a big impact on what we've had to do for sure. If there's no further questions on that, recommendation here is that the municipality of West Perth received the 2023 Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, the OMPF, as information. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Chessel. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And bring us back now to the bridge condition report card.
Okay, so this one is basically the report card on our bridge and culvert structures. So for this one, we've looked at the condition rating and the financial rating, and we have given them a grade for both. The condition rating is based off of the OSIM report that we get every 2 years from BM Ross. And so out of that, we're showing a C grade, only because we've got 72% of our structures listed kind of in that fair and poor range. So you've kind of got more on the condition rating as not being good or excellent. So the grade there showed C. The funding grade was kind of, you can look at it from a couple different angles. We stuck with replacement value. And the replacement value we saw really fluctuate this year in the report. It went up to almost 40%. So it was 83 million 2 years ago, and it's 137 million currently. So it's a big swing. So when we did the numbers in the same report card grid, in 2020, it showed the grade of A. And so currently with the new replacement value, it's showing a grade of F. So don't be alarmed that it shifted. It's just the replacement value really drove that number. And with inflation, the way it's going, I'm hoping it swings back. But then we also looked at the OSIM report has a 10-year plan. And so the 10-year plan says that basically for repair and replacement, we're looking at 11.7 million. So if we look at that and look at our annual requirement, you divide that by 10, it's not as bad. And so you can look at it in two different ways, but we wanted to stick with replacement value just because the 72% of the bridges is sitting in those fair and poor conditions. And so the poor condition replacement value is 13 million and the fair condition is 80 million. So those are big numbers, but we've got a plan and the OSIM report helps. And we've been able to manage that asset and those structures. So wouldn't put too much on that grade F for finance. And just wanted to highlight, when we do these report cards are kind of a point in time. They can change throughout the year. So we just want to kind of start a baseline for them. There was report cards in the asset management plan, and now this is the second report card you've seen from the department. So first being streetlights, now bridges. So once we get the baseline of them all, start getting a history of them, we'll be able to use that historical data to do more planning and to provide better information. And then for bridges, we're still working on them. Some things kind of came to light when we went through the inventory in the database. So data consistency is our prime. We want to be able to rely on the information that's in the database. So the OSIM report is kind of golden for us. But the way the database is built was built on financial information. And so that exercise, we want to just kind of circle back and take a look at some of the useful life and the adjusted useful life and work with the engineers to kind of determine what's in the financial side of it. There could be some changes still to come. And if there's any questions on that report, I'll gladly take them.
Okay, any questions on Wendy's bridge report there? Okay, if I don't see any hands going up, so recommendation that we have here is that the municipality of West Perth accept the 2022 bridge report card report as information. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thanks, Wendy. All right, next is clerk's report. And Dan, you have down here 2023 council meeting schedule.
Thank you, Your Worship. We felt timing was good to bring a report in front of council, just to hear council's thoughts on what works best for them of when we should be meeting in 2023. We are aware that everyone signed up knowing that it was the first and third Monday at 7 p.m. And we've put a couple of reasons in there why it might make sense for council to make a change. And if council doesn't want to make a change, that's the will of the council table. And just happy to hear any thoughts or questions council may have.
Okay, comments? Councillor Duck.
Well, I'm not opposed to a day change. I felt the 6 p.m. was just a bit too early. I don't know personally for my schedule. Just leaving work and then, hoping everything goes aligned. 6 p.m. would cut it kind of tight, and I just don't think that it leaves proper room for myself anyway, preparation. I'm not sure how other people feel, but that was the first comment I'd like to offer anyway. I was thinking at least that minimum, maybe 6:30 would be a more convenient time if you're looking to make it earlier, but not necessarily 6 p.m.
Okay. Other comments? Councillor Rose?
Yes, I agree because of when we're changing the dates around, I work till 6, so to be here would be a little hard.
Okay, no, and I think that's something that we have to keep in mind is that people do work and, not everybody is done at 4:30 or 5. Some, as Murray said, they have to work till 6. Other comments, Steve?
Yeah, I'd be looking to leave it as it is. The 7 o'clock start time seems best suited, I would say, and the Monday is probably where I would like it to stay also, just because it has been Monday, and most of us, if you're a new councillor, that's what you're expecting, I guess I could say. And for those of us who have been on council for a while or previously, have set our home schedules around the Monday. So if there's something coming up for a Monday, you stay away from the Monday. So that my choice would be to leave it as it is.
Okay, good comments, Steve. Councillor Foster.
I don't really make much of a difference to me, but I was just wondering about other counselors with issues like how they've summed their lives for like babysitting or children, because I know I'm one of the few that doesn't have kids and things like that to worry about. And I'd prefer 7 o'clock because it gives me more of the day to do stuff.
We can, we can, whoops, geez, back in the place here. We can go around the table if you want and get everybody's input. I don't have a problem with that. What I'm hearing though is basically, I think you want to leave it at 7, and that doesn't surprise me. And further to what Councillor Harold said, and I think, I'm not sure whether Deputy Mayor Kinkowski would agree with me, but like we tend to leave Mondays for council and Thursdays for county council. I don't usually schedule too much for either one of those days. And if we have to throw an extra meeting in there, it's usually on a Monday, or at the county, it's usually on a Thursday. So you kind of leave those 2 days open, but we can do a quick around the table and get everybody's comment. Councillor Fournier, we haven't heard from you.
I have no objection to moving the meetings to a Tuesday. It would seem, if I read the report correctly, it would free up our staff members' time because they are currently splitting between North Perth and West Perth. So one of the councils is probably going to have to make that choice. So either we are or North Perth, might as well be us. I can't do Wednesday because I have a date with milking cows on Wednesday, so I prefer not to. They would miss me. It's very serious. I prefer not to change it to Wednesday.
Okay. Do you have anything further, Ryan?
My first preference would probably be to leave it at the Mondays, but again, Tuesday would be my second option. That would work best my schedule. Wednesday kind of does not work for me very well, but everything can be moved if necessary.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Kinkowski.
Mondays at the 7 o'clock start time work for me. 6 o'clock works for me too, but that doesn't work for everybody at the table. If we had instead of first and third Mondays, if second and fourth Mondays was an option, that would work for me as well. But Monday seems the day that works good for me, and more importantly, seems to work with everyone else here at the table that I've heard so far.
Okay, thanks. Doug?
I just didn't know, or I read in there the Mondays, like, so the long weekends, or if it's a holiday, then you just move to Tuesday, is that? So,
Yeah.
like, any of the days works for me. I'm pretty flexible, and time is pretty flexible because I pretty much make my own schedule work. So whatever works for, you just let me know when to be here.
Yep. Okay. Good.
From the new proposed, Tuesdays do not work for me. And I prefer the later start time of 7. The only other comment I have is sometimes the committees meet before a council meeting. So if we move it earlier, then those meetings would be pushed even earlier.
No, good point, Diane. And Phil?
I think just leaving it Mondays at 7 worked for me as well. I don't think Tuesday will work, as I can't tell you where I'll be during the week.
Oh, Councillor Vink is on Zoom. I keep forgetting about Nicholas. Comments, Nicholas?
I don't have a strong preference one way or the other.
Okay. So the feeling I'm getting is we want to leave the time at 7. And the other option, I think Mondays are the times we want to leave it at. There is the option, if we wanted to, we could go with the second and fourth Monday. And that, just kind of threw out, but the first Monday of the month, the holidays, really, it's July, August, and September, the 2 or the 3 long weekends during the summer that it impacts us. And usually, quite often in July and August, we do move our meetings around because we maybe don't need 2 meetings in the month. We go with 3 for the summer, even 3 weeks. So anyways, Doug, you got a comment?
No, just a question. If we move to second and fourth, does that make a difference for the planners then?
Well, I would think, we haven't got any planners here now, but I would think it would, because the only problem is North Perth is the same night. But, I would say tonight we had 3 planners here. And normally if there's something in North Perth, what they have done in the past is they've split them up, and they do have a planner that lives in North Perth, and I think she's covered for them. But you know, it's your schedule and it's whatever you want to feel comfortable with. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that we leave it status quo. Is that what you want to do? Everybody's not. Go ahead.
I would just suggest then we select option 3, but specify at 7 PM. And that would be just continuing.
Nope, that's good. So there's no resolution there, I don't think, other than we select option 3, as you said. Just leave, well, or just leave everything as status quo. 7 o'clock, Monday, first and third Monday at 7. So I guess we should get a mover and seconder for that, as it is on the floor. So Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Duck, all those in favor of that motion? Anybody opposed? Okay, that's carried. We'll just leave her the way it is. Correspondence, you don't have anything else, do you? Dan? No. Correspondence, is that under you, Jeff? Or you want to take it? Yeah.
We just wanted to share the letter we received with council. So we did open the time capsule on November 16th. If we're just sharing this, if council wants us to upload the contents into the International Time Capsule Society's database, we're happy to do so. And just an FYI otherwise.
So my understanding, there's no charge for this. This is what they do. I guess my question is what was in the time capsule? Is it worthwhile sending to them, you know?
We would have to go through it and upload it. They have an online process. So we would have to spend some time and really catalog it thoroughly and upload it that way.
You know, my take on it, oh, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I think it was important to our municipality and probably not to many others. I don't think there would be much interest from others. I don't think the staff needs to go to the trouble of making that submission, but that's my thoughts.
Well, I was just going to say it was more a collection of artifacts and pictures from even just the one ward, the Hibbert ward of West Perth. You know, and this is out of the States, I believe, isn't it? So anyways, consensus in Steve's thoughts that we don't waste staff's time with it. And we have it out here. It's out on our display, and it's probably as valuable there as what it would be sitting in a library in the States, I would think, maybe, eh? Ryan?
Yeah, I would agree with what Steve said. I think it's a neat idea, but not necessarily worth the time and the effort.
Okay, if there's nothing further on that, then the recommendation that we just receive or accept correspondence as information. So we have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Foster, Councillor Rose, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Okay. So I don't believe there's any council reports at this time. We do have some bylaws though. We have bylaw 73 is a bylaw to provide for amendment of the Haggerty Drain Branch 3. Bylaw 55 for the collection of actual costs of the amended assessments. And are we doing these all individually, or do you want them all together?
We can do them all together.
Okay, well, you've got them listed separately here, so I wasn't sure. So bylaw 74 is a bylaw to appoint a municipal auditor for the term of 2020 through to 2000 and it should be 26. You've got 24 down there twice. Bylaw 75 is a bylaw to appoint members to the various boards and committees. So we should have a chat about that one, I guess, before we get into that. Eh?
We can withhold it now. Yep.
Okay, we should pull that one back. We'll do that one separately. Bylaw 76 is to amend bylaw 72, 2019, requiring emergency management program and emergency Coordinator, Program Committee, and Plan for the Protection of Public Safety, Health, and Environment, the critical infrastructure and property, and to promote economic stability and a disaster resilient community. Bylaw, zoning bylaw 272 is a bylaw to amend bylaw number 100, 1998, as amended for property described as lot 22, concession 8 of the Fullerton Ward. Zoning bylaw 273 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 100 as amended for property described as Park Lot 46, Plan 339 in Blanchard Ward, Blanchard Street rather, in the Mitchell Ward. Bylaw 274 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 100 as amended for a property described as Lot 29, concession 3 of the Logan Ward. Bylaw 275 is a bylaw to amend bylaw number 100, 1998 is amended for property described as part lot 6, concession 12 of the Hibbert Ward. So the recommendation is that we give first, second reading to, and I got to pull the one out of there, I guess, will we? 75, we'll pull 75 out. So we give first and second reading to bylaw 73, 74, 76, zoning bylaw 272, 273, 274, and 275 this 19th day of December. So we'll deal with the first and second reading on them. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And then we might as well do the third reading on that. So again, it's the same bylaws. It's 73, 74, 76, and then the zoning bylaws 272, 273, 274, 275 for third and final reading. Mover and seconder for that, Councillor Phelps and Councillor Duck. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. So yeah, let's just do the committees then, and that is, where did we have that in our agenda? Oh, that was in closed session. Okay, so we should, we'll leave that then and go into closed session, and we can, yeah, we'll carry on. And then we'll go into closed session, and then when we come out of closed session, we'll deal with that other bylaw in case there's some changes there. So upcoming events or announcements, special council meeting on January the 4th. Any notices of motion? Other business, and you have one item there you want to talk about.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to provide council with an update that our zoning bylaw amendment for the Bartels file has been appealed. So the municipality will be working through that process through the Ontario Land Tribunal. And that was a decision made by former council, if just to help everyone know what we're talking about.
Okay, any questions on that? Just kind of wait and see. All right. Oh, sorry, question over here.
Through you, your worship, do we know what the approximate date the appeal will be conducted or held?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We do not know right now. We've just filed. Last week was our deadline to get all our documents basically off to OLT for their review. So ultimately, the next steps are they'll notify us if it's a complete package or if they need anything else from us. And then from there, there'll be a bit of an organizational meeting, which would kind of look at everyone's schedules and timelines to set when that process is going to start formally.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a closed session. We shouldn't be that long, I don't think, Jeff. I'm just looking at staff. If you want to, actually, we could bring some lunch out here for while we're in there. I don't anticipate a long session in there. So yeah, stick around and have a chocolate or two before the Christmas break, and we would certainly join your social company once we're done here. So motion that we proceed to closed session at 8:51 for the purpose of addressing personnel matters about an identifiable individual. And what we're talking about is basically board and committee appointments. So we have a mover and second. We're going to closed session. Counselor Harold, Counselor O'Donnell, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. So we'll just sneak into the committee room. We can, Whoops, sorry. Coming out of the closed session, we just went through the council committees and finalized who goes on what committee, and everybody seems to be satisfied with what we've done there. So that's good. So that brings us that we need to pass bylaw number 75, and we'll do it the same way. We'll do first and second readings for bylaw 75, 2022, which is appointment of council to committees. So do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Chessel and Councillor Duck. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And then third and final reading for bylaw number 75. Councillor Rose, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is also carried. Which brings us down to the confirmatory bylaw. And that is the bylaw 77, 2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth. We read a first, second time this 19th day of December. So we need a mover and seconder for those two readings. Councillor Fournier, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And then bylaw 77, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the Corporation Municipality of West Perth. We read a third and finally passed this 19th day of December. So moving second to third reading. Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Phelps, all in favor? That is carried. And finally, that a motion to adjourn at 9:21 p.m. And everybody puts their hands up. I'll take Councillor Chessel and Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? That is good. We're adjourned. I do want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody in the new year. And yeah, it won't be long coming.